When his banker daddy sent Joshua to a fancy prep school miles from his hometown, my family in Jeff City was relying on our neighbors to survive bankruptcy and medical bills.
Republican Senator Josh Hawley has a new potential challenger for 2024, and that is Lucas Kunce, who is going to be running in the Democratic primary in Missouri to become the Democratic nominee to go up against Josh Hawley. He's run before for Senate. I'll get to what happened there. But his new ad announcing this run is fantastic. So I'm going to share this. I'm also going to share a clip of him on cable news discussing why he is running. And I think he makes a pretty good point in that interview. First here, this is his ad. So before I show the ad, he puts out this tweet with it saying on January 6, 2021, Josh Hawley showed us he's a fraud and a coward. Missourians deserve a U.S. Senator who's willing to stand and fight. That's why I've decided to take him on. So let me play his ad for you.
My name is Lucas Kunce. I've done a lot of running in my life. Running to stay healthy, running to fight for my country, running to defend democracy. Oh, and by the way, that guy you're looking at, that's not me. That's our current U.S. Senator Josh Hawley. This guy. Or maybe you'd better recognize him running for his life a few hours later. I swear, this coward's always running from something. And now, this is the guy who's writing a book telling every single one of us how to be a man. Now this is me, Lucas Kunce, running for Senate. I wasn't born with a silver spoon in my mouth, but I did have the support of my community, which made me who I am today. When things get tough, Missourians deserve a U.S. Senator who will stand up for them, not run away. That's why I'm running to replace Josh Hawley, because we couldn't be more different. When his banker daddy sent Joshua to a fancy prep school miles from his hometown, my family in Jeff City was relying on our neighbors to survive bankruptcy and medical bills. When he graduated from law school, he joined one of the world's most elite corporate law firms. I joined the Marine Corps to pay back the community that took care of me. When he was climbing the ladder to become another corrupt politician, I was serving my country and working to put an end to overseas wars. When giant corporations were stripping Missouri for parts, he attacked workers and shipped our jobs away, while I fought to take power back for American workers and small businesses. And when he voted against relief for vets like me who were exposed to toxic burn pits, I stood up alongside thousands of veterans to hold him accountable. I'm Lucas Kunce, and I approve this message because Josh Hawley is a fraud and a coward. And by the time I'm done with him, the whole world's gonna know it. So keep on running, Josh. Keep on running.
So I really enjoyed that ad. Now, you could argue maybe a little bit melodramatic there, especially at the end with the camera angle and, you know, Lucas Kunce turning his head and talking to Josh Hawley. Like, I I get a little bit of that. That stuff can be bothersome and play up the idea that these are all just actors. At the same time, he brings up legitimate criticisms here of Josh Hawley and how he is different, and I'll get to more on that in this video. But he, brings up how Josh Hawley worked for a corporate law firm. Meanwhile, Hawley's trying to pretend that he's a populist, a fighter for the people, yet comes from a background in corporate law and is a supporter of outlawing labor rights, including the right to strike. So you can't be a populist and be anti-worker rights. But Josh Hawley claims to be a populist while being anti-worker rights. So I'll get to it again a little more here, but I want to give you, just an understanding of what happened in the last time that Kunce ran. Because the idea of corporations and money isn't just a problem, of course, in the Republican Party. It's also a problem in the Democratic Party. So from New Republic here, Kunce told the New Republic that the hardships he faced are a large part of why he's involved in politics. Quote, "When my little sister was born and had an open heart surgery, my family went bankrupt. We made it because the people in that neighborhood came by our house, brought us more tuna casseroles than we could eat." So before I even get to his last race here, this sort of background, this experience, it's not required if you're going to fight for people regardless, but it definitely does help when it comes to whether or not people can actually trust you to fight for issues like Medicare for all, that you have this in your background, that you have this experience. I think it gives people a little more to latch onto in their belief in you. So they go on to write here, Kunce first ran for office in 2022, vying to fill Republican Roy Blunt's vacant seat. In a crowded Democratic primary, Kunce lost to late entrant and Anheuser-Busch heiress Trudy Busch Valentine, who then went on to lose the general election to Republican Eric Schmidt by 13.5 points. The primary still displayed Kunce's formidability. Valentine, whose assets were worth as much as $214.7 million, largely self-funded her own $3.4 million campaign, which for her is a drop in the bucket. Meanwhile, Kunce fundraised $4.6 million, more than half of which came from donations smaller than $200. So having this sort of individual, an heiress to Anheuser-Busch, run, and then of course lose, because in a general, people don't want to vote for a corporate politician. And meanwhile, they got another one. But when you got two against each other, you're going to end up suppressing the Democratic vote, because Democrats win, Democratic politicians win when they're able to bring out more people to vote than normally vote. The only way to do that is to tap into those people who have been disillusioned by this two-party corporate system. So when you have a Democrat like Kunce on the actual general election ballot, as primaries, of course, historically, a lot less people vote in primaries than in the general. So when you have a general where you have an actual clear difference, in this case, potentially Kunce and Josh Hawley, then it becomes a lot more likely that Kunce is able to pull out a win, because he has the potential there to tap into a voting base that doesn't normally vote. Now, I want to show you, this is a clip from his appearance, when was this? August 30th, 2021. So this is him discussing what it was like, this is while Biden was pulling out of Afghanistan, and here is his passionate defense of that, which at the time, the media was attacking Biden largely over him doing that, even though it was the right thing to do. Here is Kunce out there discussing why he supports this.
The people who are over there doing this evacuation in very dangerous conditions, as you've seen, are doing absolutely the bravest, most impossible job in the world, and I'm very proud of them. But as far as the overall picture goes, here's the deal. All these people are playing the blame game right now over what's happening right now, because they want to distract us from the fact that we spent 20 years, $2.3 trillion, and 2,500 U.S. service member lives over there for absolutely nothing. Like the same people right now who are saying one more day, one more month, one more dollar are the same people who said that for 20 years. And what we saw last week, what that means is one more Marine. It means one more Marine over and over again. It reminds me of the saddest day of my entire life, which was standing on the flight line in Helmand, Afghanistan, in the middle of the night, watching the fallen body of one of the members of my battalion loaded onto a transport plane to go home. These people are trying to keep us focused on what's happening right now, because they have been telling the American people that it was worthwhile to spend $2.3 trillion over there for absolutely nothing, while they've been refusing to spend that much building up our own country here at home. And we can't let them win. We have to fight back against that narrative, because it's wrong, and it's just part of the systematic institutional dishonesty that has us in this position right now.
So watching this again, I believe I covered this at the time. I'll have to go back and check, because one of the things that really stand out here is you have a veteran who is anti-war. So often the way that veterans are used in politics is to, do some more bombing. But you have someone here who has a very different perspective, because he understands the cost of war. And to have a voice like this as a potential senator in the Democratic Party, yes, there are, a handful of them, but there aren't as many as there should be when it comes to trying to bring down military spending. You see every year the budget increases regardless of who's in power. So to have a voice like this there, I think would be incredibly important. Now, I also want to show you what he writes on his site here that stood out to me. So he has a long Meet Lucas Kunce page about, what he's for. But this part in particular stood out to me. So he writes here, I'm running for U.S. Senate to be the warrior for working people that Missouri deserves, to fight for our state, and we aren't fighting the corporate to fight for our state. And we aren't fighting the corporate status quo just to make a point. This is a race we can win. And this is a quote from the AP. Kunce, like Senate candidate John Fetterman in Pennsylvania, is a populist. He wants to ban stock ownership for members of Congress, break up corporate monopolies, and end foreign ownership of agricultural land. So all solid points here, an actual populist on these issues, unlike the fake populist that you often see on the right. Also goes on to write here, our values have won at the ballot box with wide margins for referendums that go beyond what's happening nowadays in Washington or what political elites in Jefferson City are willing to allow. Missouri voters have sidestepped our politicians by voting to increase the minimum wage well above the federal level, expand health care, repeal an anti-worker right-to-work scheme, legalize weed, and enact more protections against political corruption. And he also brings this up on his appearance here on MSNBC, where he discusses what he's about.
How do you win in a state that is perceived as not ruby red, but red?
So what Missourians really want right now is they want someone who understands what life is like for the average Missourian. You know, most of us live paycheck to paycheck or one disaster from bankruptcy. That's how I grew up. You can find out more about it at lucaskunce.com for anyone who's watching. You know, I don't want to go into it too deep now, but I mean, we were on desperate times. We went bankrupt from medical bills, and we were saved by the community around us. People like Josh Hawley, they don't understand that. All they understand is controlling other people so that they can get power. And if Missourians have been doing anything lately, it's actually we've been trying to claw back power. People might be surprised to hear this, but on ballot initiatives, we have overturned things that people like Josh Hawley have done over and over again. We expanded Medicaid on a ballot measure. We increased the minimum wage. We made marijuana legal and several other things. And so, like, actually, Missouri is a very populous state where people want power. They just need to see somebody who will offer that to them.
So I love this clip as well, because this really showcases that just because Missouri right now is, appears to be a red state, it doesn't mean the voters there actually are. You have to be aware of how people can fall down certain rabbit holes when it comes to social media or whatever media they're consuming to think that certain people are populist and are fighting for you, like Josh Hawley, when they actually aren't. So when you actually look at ballot measures, the issues on paper, what people want to see, people in Missouri lean progressive. Meaning, if you have an actual populist like Lucas Kunce there, potentially in a general election, there is a real chance for him to win. At the very least, he has a much better chance than having your typical corporate Democratic politician in there who isn't going to get anyone new out to vote. So we're going to see over the next year or two how this race goes. Let's hope he's actually able to win the Democratic primary. That's always the biggest fight, because the Democratic Party will spend a lot of money against an actual populist, someone they actually fear. But we'll see. Will he run unopposed, or will they fund someone else? We're going to have to wait.